Sorry for the late video. Took me a bit longer to do the research. I always try my best to give you accurate info for every scenario, so I hope you all understand. Now, this right here is probably the most powerful picture on the internet right now. Looks like a king just summoned all his nobles and told them to go by Trump Towers. Just kidding. So, the second White House meeting between the US and Ukraine just happened, and it was a pretty interesting one. After the first meeting, this time Zelenskyy showed up with several European leaders, and a lot went down. So let's break everything down in simple terms. What happened during the meeting, what Zelenskyy said, what Trump said, and whether this meeting helped solve the core issue of the Russia-Ukraine war. Let's get into it. Well, here you can see the Chief of Protocol, Monica Crowley, greeting NATO Chief Mark Rutte, European Commission Head Ursula von der Leyen, Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, and all the other European leaders arriving one by one. Now Zelenskyy was greeted by President Trump himself. And as you know, Zelensky's outfit was a big topic of discussion last time. So here's a funny clip of President Trump greeting Zelenskyy and making a comment about his outfit for this second round of meetings. Get a watch.
The best I have.
Ready, face?
So yeah, nice outfit this time. Now in total, 7 European leaders came for the meeting, including Zelenskyy himself, the NATO chief, the European Commission head, Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and interestingly, Finland's President Alexander Stubb also joined. Now, you might be wondering, with so many people in the room, what was actually discussed? And does President Trump really agree with them? Well, a lot was covered in this meeting, from the issue of Ukrainian children taken by Russia to whether NATO should extend Article 5 guarantees to Ukraine. So let's go over everything one by one. So, in total, 2 meetings took place to discuss the current Ukraine-Russia situation. First, Trump and Zelenskyy had a one-on-one discussion. Then, interestingly, right after their talk, Trump suddenly called Putin. Marco Rubio later said in a statement that he was present when the call was made and that President Trump discussed Ukraine's stance with Putin and even proposed a trilateral meeting between him, Putin, and Zelenskyy.
Were you in the room when the president talked to Vladimir Putin?
I was. And in that conversation, what came from it is that, the president suggested that Zelenskyy and Putin meet. So we're working on that now to try to set that up for them to meet somewhere, which again would be unprecedented. And then if that goes well, hopefully the next meeting will be a meeting between Presidents Putin, Trump, and Zelenskyy.
And after that call, a broader meeting took place with the European leaders. Now, a lot of things were discussed in this bigger meeting. Sadly, J.D. Vance didn't speak this time. If he had, maybe we would have gotten a fiery round 2. But oh well. When the meeting kicked off, the European leaders heavily praised Trump and the U.S. for opening up a line of dialogue with Putin. Here's a video of Finland's president saying, "We've made more progress in 2 weeks than in the past 3.5 years."
Before I finish up, I want you to say a couple of words. Go ahead.
I'll take the notion of youth back to my wife and try to convince her. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think in the past 2 weeks, we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have in the past 3.5 years.
And that wasn't the only moment of praise. Giorgia Meloni also said something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you, President Trump. So yeah, the European leaders were clearly showing a lot of gratitude toward the U.S. and Trump for actually getting Russia to the table for serious discussions. After that, the main discussion began, and it focused heavily on giving security guarantees to Ukraine. Europe and Ukraine both pushed for guarantees that Russia wouldn't attack again. Now, as you probably know, President Trump has openly rejected the idea of Ukraine joining NATO. That's still his stance. But there were discussions around giving Ukraine something similar to NATO's Article 5 guarantees. And Trump's position on that was basically, America is ready to support Europe-led guarantees. But does it even make sense? I mean, nobody dares to attack NATO mainly because of Article 5, the guarantee that an attack on one is considered an attack on all. That's literally the backbone of NATO. Now, Giving similar guarantees to Ukraine is kind of like making them part of NATO unofficially. And honestly, that raises a lot of questions. Like, will these guarantees come only from Europe, or are the European leaders hoping the U.S. will commit troops too, if things go wrong? Nobody really knows. It's a weird situation for sure. There's a blurry line between support and commitment, and Trump's stance, supporting Europe-led guarantees, kind of avoids giving a direct yes or no. Now, another major topic raised in the meeting was the issue of Ukrainian children currently in the Russian Federation. According to Ukraine, since the war started, Russia has forcibly taken around 19,500 Ukrainian children from Russian-occupied regions. And as of June this year, only 1,345 of them have been returned home. This issue is so serious that the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, accusing him of unlawful deportation and transfer of children. Now, from Russia's side, their claim is totally different. They say they're protecting vulnerable children by moving them from war zones for safety. So yeah, both sides are making very different claims. And at the end of the day, it really depends on how you see the situation and who you believe. Interestingly, even Melania Trump stepped in and wrote a letter to Putin, personally asking for the return of the Ukrainian children. And during the meeting, the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, specifically raised this issue with President Trump, and later publicly thanked him for giving attention to it. Now here's the awkward part. While Ursula von der Leyen was seriously talking about the issue of the children, President Trump suddenly went off topic and started talking about the largest trade deal in history. Here's a short clip from that moment. Have a look.
Every single child has to go back to its family. This should be one of our main priorities also in these negotiations, to make sure that the children come back to Ukraine, to their families.
Thank you. And we did. I was just thinking we're here for a different reason, but we just a couple of weeks ago made the largest trade deal in history. So that's a big thing, and congratulations. That's great. Thank you very much, Ursula.
So, the meeting is now over, but President Trump has mentioned that Putin and Zelenskyy may meet soon. Well, I don't really think Putin would want to meet Zelenskyy unless some of his conditions are already agreed to. But let's see what Trump can do about it. Now, the security guarantee issue is still the biggest point here. The NATO chief said that 30 nations, including Japan and Australia, are working on some form of security guarantees for Ukraine. But let's be honest, what can these nations really do without the U.S.? And if that wasn't already complicated enough, Zelenskyy has said he wants the guarantees formalized within 7 to 10 days. On top of that, Ukraine is expecting a $90 billion package, including aircraft, air defense systems, and more. Now, obviously, this isn't just about helping Ukraine. Providing security guarantees is also about protecting Europe itself. And European leaders know it. They want Ukraine to act as a buffer zone between Russia and the rest of Europe. They fear that if Ukraine becomes unstable, or worse, if Russia takes full control, then Europe will be directly under threat. But if you really think about it, all the pressure is on the U.S. shoulders. Europe, on its own, doesn't seem willing or able to give Ukraine solid guarantees without the U.S. backing them up. Right now, both sides have very tough positions. Russia is not going to give up the land it's already taken. And Zelenskyy refuses to give up even a single inch of Ukrainian territory, especially when it comes to Donetsk. The situation there is really tough. To understand it better, here's a short clip. Please watch.
And this is the part that's occupied here by Russia. This part is still occupied by Ukraine. And that's the part that Vladimir Putin has got his sights set on, and he wants to gain in any kind of a peace deal here. Now, what's interesting is that Ukraine is saying, well, wait a second, you don't occupy that territory, so why would we ever give it away?
So yeah, as you just saw, Putin clearly wants control over all of Donetsk. Meanwhile, Ukraine says it's open to peace talks, but any discussion over territory will only happen between Zelenskyy and Putin, not through Trump. And Ukraine wants all its occupied land returned. Clearly, this is going to be very hard to negotiate. Another major topic brought up in the meeting was the issue of a ceasefire. Right now, the U.S. stance doesn't prioritize an immediate ceasefire. President Trump wants to first finalize a peace deal and only then agree to a ceasefire. But Zelenskyy and several European leaders want a ceasefire first, and then they'll talk peace. So this is yet another issue where their positions don't fully match. Still, despite all this, the meeting was important. It helped the U.S. and Europe get a clearer understanding of the current situation and where everyone stands. Marco Rubio made an interesting point. Both sides can't have a peace agreement unless both sides give and get something. So yeah, the Russia-Ukraine war remains a huge, complicated topic, and there's still a long road ahead before any real progress or peace can be achieved. I'll keep updating you with all the future developments. So what do you think about this situation? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.